So when the fighting was over, the Egyptian army took the 87 people that were killed trying to ascend on top of the hill, and these bodies were buried in a mass grave. So at the end, in December 2011, like 2 or 3 months ago, the people that were left from the Alexandroni Brigade that were still here in Israel dedicated this memorial because this is the spot of the mass grave where the Egyptians buried the 87 soldiers. Since then, they've been transferred to a different burial site, but this is still the spot where the Egyptian soldiers buried them. And on the 20th of December in 2011, it's in the shape of 2 candles to commemorate the second night of Hanukkah, the night of the attack. And the liquidation of the pocket, this liquidation of Kis Faluja, is one of the main reasons that the Egyptian, it was actually called Paz because Pei Zayin is 87. So if you take a look, there's also an Andartat Paz inside Kiryat Gat. Also it has in the shape of 2 different candles. And this main reason, the 4,000 soldiers that were still left between those 2 cities of Fallujah and Iraq al-Manshia were one of the main reasons why the Egyptians decided at the end that they were going to pull out and call a ceasefire and end their part of the war of independence. So if it wasn't for the multiple battles that existed on Kis Faluja, on attacks on Kis Faluja, and what happened here, the Egyptians would have had a much harder time pulling out. We would have lost a lot more land. We wouldn't have had any of the land that's one of the most fertile lands of part of Eretz Yisrael. If it wasn't for the Givati Brigade and then the Alexandroni Brigade that kept them at bay, tried to push them out, but at least kept them at bay. And there's multiple different articles that you can check out that existed about Fallujah and what was happening here in the Central Tzionut archives. And the last thing I wanted to say is, I started off saying that Zaidi was a tremendous Magid, but I heard that a shir, actually just yesterday, on the word Magid that related to Pesach, because the whole idea is you're supposed to actually say Ve'gadeta levincha. It's one of the main things, is you're supposed to be able to tell over the story to your children of what happened back in Egypt, speaking of Egypt. And one of the key things that we say is that there's a mitzvah actually to do these things, so I think it's particularly appropriate that we're doing it on Pesach, even though this thing happened during the night of Hanukkah, because it's a matter of being over to tell the children. And the definition of the word magid, according to the shir that I listened to, is not necessarily to tell over, but lehagid comes from the word agud, which means to bind, and it also means gid, like gid anasheh, right? It's something, it's a tendon, and tendons, the word lehagid really means to pull, nimshoch, and I think that it's particularly befitting because Zaidi did through all these battles and all these things we hear about him. It was a tremendous source of agudah, was a tremendous sort of strength for us, and he pulled himself out, and the rest of the family, along with Bubika and the people of that generation, pulled themselves out of that and pulled together their families and pulled to get us to this area. So I think that it's a lemafreya. I didn't even think we thought about that when we put together the word magid on his grave. But the word magid is particularly befitting and for him, because not only did he tell stories, but I think that he really fulfilled the word of magid, which is to bind us all together and pull us all together. So that's that. I just wanted you guys to see these 87 that Zaidi kept speaking of, that they had tremendous losses, which was the Pei Zayin, and that's it. So this is the legacy that in part that Zaidi had left us, and I'm glad you guys could all join. Okay.
Amazing. Incredible. I didn't even dream it would be this powerful.
Anyway, so that I'm going to give to you. And I'm going to give you the box with pictures and everything so you can see it and think about it, whatever it is. And that's that. That's the story. Oh yes, no, you can only say that.
You're the only one who can.
Right.
We should say.
They still have parents.
We should say a Perek Tehillim.
That you can do, and this is your
Perek Pei Zayin, maybe.
You can say Pei Zayin, actually. Very
this
good.
is your sitter, Kevin. You should say it from your
I'll say from my side. I'll say Perek Tehillim Pei Zayin. Tabin Ta'im Yechol Limtzol. Kamalei Rachamim. Pei Zayin.
It turns out to be the one that Zaidi marked off. I absolutely
למנצח, על לבני קורח מזמור שיר יסודתו בהרי קודש, אוהב אדוני שערי ציון מכל משכנות יעקב, נכבדות מדובר בך, עיר האלוהים סלע, אז כי רחב, ובבל ליודעי, הנה פלשת וצור עם כוש, זה יולד שם לציון, יאמר איש איש יולד בה, והוא יכונניה עליון. אדוני יספור, בכתוב עמים, זה יולד שם סלע, ושרים כחולים כל מעייני בך. תגיד על מלא רחמים.